And really what happened was because I had moved to almost, I'd say, the countryside, north of the Golden Gate Bridge. So it was north of Silicon Valley, by, maybe half an hour or so from the Golden Gate, from San Francisco proper. But this part of what's called Western Marin is you're just kind of bridging next to horse and cattle and small plot family farm country. So I just started becoming friends with these small plot family farmers who were growing these very beautiful, very delicious artisanal ingredients, and I got just really excited about this whole idea of symbiosis in nature. So that the kind of farming they were doing was called biodynamic, and which goes several steps beyond organic. So it has a lot to do with the work of Rudolf Steiner from the early 1900s, and also these folks were either they were living in the Bucky Fuller domes, or they were being involved in these sort of Bucky Fuller type communities, and so I was kind of bombarded early on in this by both the farm to table communities and the sort of resiliency in the built environment, where these people were cobbling together the state of the art back then in passive home typologies and low board geothermal and biomass, biogas, and they were experimenting with early photovoltaic panels and all these different pieces coming together that they were making work. These systems didn't talk to each other, but they worked individually, cobbled together. And what that meant was that these were communities, neighborhoods that were capable of generating their own power in case of some kind of power outage. They were capable of generating and harvesting clean water and digesting their waste into resources. And also they were able to generate a pretty significant amount of food and nutritional input in a very small footprint, around their homes. So I was impacted by that. That's what really struck me. It was these incredible farm to table meals, sitting with people, just feeling healthy, feeling happy, great laughter, great conversations. And so I started to do this case study research about the work of Rudolf Steiner and Buckminster Fuller and these other lovely folks from Australia, Bill Mollison on permaculture. And as I was started to film the interviews with these farmers and track where the food was going, that actually turned into a popular television cooking show, TV show that I produced and directed. Originally it was called Organic Living. We had a sister TV show called Hippy Gourmet, kind of edgy. And it really just was a labor of love. It was just something doing on the side of my software company. But eventually that took hold and became a very popular TV series. We reached about 35 million homes a week on national public television and had a best-selling companion cookbook that I co-authored on Hachette. But the stories in the book itself and the show itself was also about these, in-between stories of resiliency in the built environment. And so when I came to Stanford in 2012, I had already, roughly 15 years experience, in this area of case study research of organic, biodynamic, and self-sustaining neighborhoods. And so I joined the solar decathlon competition at Stanford, and that really was a really interesting competition, sponsored initially by the U.S. Department of Energy, who could build the most energy positive home. And the competition was basically you design and flat pack a home, you send it to some location around the world, designated location where the competition is going to be held. The house gets built, and then there's these judges, and they judge the 20 homes. But part of the competition also is that the house, when it's finished, has to be deconstructed, sent back to each campus where it came from, built up again, and then actually become a real house. So it wasn't a Hollywood set. It had to be a very real house, a really very real structure. But when I came into this research, the first thing I said to the professors was, it occurs to me that a smart house inside of a dumb neighborhood doesn't make much sense. And I was really blessed to be involved, with professors, from the Center for Design Research and School of Mechanical Engineering at Stanford. And they all just sort of leaned in and they said, okay, we love this idea, this thought process that you're going in. So we think you should make this, kind of your thesis, your research initiative. So part of it, of course, was being done, through the solar decathlon, through the built environment. But there was another part of it that I had an interest in that I self-funded and I did off campus because I'm an entrepreneur, right? So I understood the rules, regulations, the permutations in dealing with licensing and tech, especially dealing with universities. And so I self-funded some research off campus. And we started really looking carefully at sort of coding and a software platform that could model a natural symbiosis and be able to actually then interface with and integrate these previously siloed components that I mentioned before and create a modern eco-village interpretation that could be designed by software and then managed by software. So that's the long story of me growing up in New York, moving out to California, having software company, going into research, and then bringing that research forward through Stanford. And in 2016, we founded a Dutch holding company, so a for-profit impact company focusing on asset-backed land development, but married with software and tech.